There are no merits that he has not accumulated or sufferings that he has not undergone. He has gathered into himself all the qualities of the Buddhas. For these many and numberless reasons, the Buddha alone is the foremost of all beings. Question. But all the Buddhas of the 3 times and the 10 directions have the same qualities. Why do you say that the Buddha alone is foremost? Answer. I said that, among beings other than the Buddhas, the Buddha 0b alone is supreme. The Buddhas have equal and identical qualities. 5. Etymology of Sarvajñata. In the expression Sarvajñata, Sarva in the language of the Tsin means all, Jnana in the language of the Tsin means to know, and Ta in the language of the Tsin means the fact of. As I have said above, Sarva designates all dharmas, with form, etc. The Buddha knows all these dharmas in their characteristics, single or diverse, impure or pure, conditioned or unconditioned, etc. Each of these dharmas has their characteristics, their power, their causes and conditions, their fruit of retribution, their nature, their acquiring and their loss. It is by the power of Sarvajñata that one cognizes them in a full and exhaustive way, at all times and in all their aspects. That is why the Prajnaparamitutra says here. The bodhisattva who wants to fulfill omniscience completely by means of the knowledge of the aspect of the path should exert himself in the prajnaparamita. If he wants to fulfill completely the knowledge of all the aspects, he should exert himself in the prajnaparamita. 6. The knowledge of all the aspects is practiced after omniscience. Question. But as soon as he acquires complete enlightenment, the Buddha completely fulfills both omniscience and the knowledge of all the aspects by means of his knowledge of the paths. Why does the Sutras say here that he uses omniscience to perfect the knowledge of all the aspects? Answer. It is true that, as soon as he attains enlightenment, the Buddha completely fulfills omniscience and completely fulfills the knowledge of all the aspects by means of his knowledge of the paths. He could be compared to the king of a great country. At the time when he ascends his throne, he enters into possession of his territories and his treasuries, but he has not yet opened them and used them. Sastra. I. The knowledge of the aspects leads immediately to the destruction of the traces of conflicting emotions. Question. The bodhisattva obtains omniscience, the knowledge of all the aspects, and destroys all the traces of conflicting emotion in one and the same moment of mind. Why does the Prajnaparamitutra say here that he uses omniscience to completely fulfill the knowledge of all the aspects and that he uses the knowledge of all the aspects to destroy the traces of the passions? Answer. It is true that all these knowledges are acquired simultaneously, but here the Prajnaparamitutra expresses itself in this way in order to bring people to believe in the prajnaparamita. Besides, in a following chapter, the tch'a-pie, he wants beings to acquire pure mind, and this is why he expresses himself in this way. Moreover, although that is all acquired in a single mind moment, there is, nevertheless, a succession with a beginning, a middle, and an end, for every mind involves 3 characteristics. Production which conditions duration and duration which conditions disappearance. And this is so for the mind, mental events, formations dissociated from the mind, physical actions, and vocal actions. By means of the knowledge of the paths, the bodhisattva completely fulfills omniscience. By means of omniscience, he completely fulfills the knowledge of all the aspects. By means of the knowledge of all the aspects, he destroys the traces of the passions. I said above that the knowledge of all the aspects is the same as omniscience. The knowledge of the paths is synonymous with the diamond concentration. In possession of the latter, the Buddha first produces a mind which is none other than omniscience or the knowledge of all the aspects, and immediately his traces of the passions are destroyed. 2. Conflicting emotions and the traces of conflicting emotions. The characteristics of omniscience and the knowledge of all the aspects have been described above. What is destroying the traces of all the conflicting emotions? 0c. In brief, the passions are the 3 poisons: desire, hatred, ignorance. At length, these are the 98 perverse tendencies of the 3 worlds. The traces of the passions are the residual emanations of passion. If certain physical or vocal actions are not in accordance with wisdom, they seem to come from the passions, and those who do not know the minds of others see them as such and experience a feeling of horror. In reality, it is not truly a matter of passion, but those who have given themselves up to the passions for a long time carry out actions of this kind. Thus a prisoner who has been laden with chains for a long time, once he is liberated, moves with a hesitant walk even though he no longer is in chains. A nurse's clothes that have been stained for a long time, even though they are washed and scrubbed with pure ash, still remain impregnated with the smell of the stains. In the same way, the stains of the mind in the saint are like the passions and, even though he has washed his passions with the water of wisdom, the traces remain in him. 3. The traces of passion persist in the saints. The saints other than the Buddha destroy the passions but do not destroy the traces. Thus, although he had attained the bodhi of the Arhats, Nantio, as a result of the traces of lust, in the presence of a large assembly of men and women, first stared at the women and then, raising his voice, preached the Dharma. Out of traces of anger, when the Buddha accused him of eating impure food, Cholifu spat out his food and never again accepted an invitation. Sariputra then added this stanza. It is a habitual offender, a false mind, an ignorant and lazy person. Never again will I allow him to come in and stay near me. Out of traces of hatred, after the Buddha's nirvana when the Dharma was being compiled, Mohokiacho ordered Ananda to confess 6 Duskrita misdeeds, then, taking him by the hand, he expelled him from the assembly, saying, We cannot compile the Dharma with you, unclean man, whose impurities have not been destroyed. Pilingkia Potso was always insulting the deity of the Ganges, treating her like a slave. Out of traces of monkey antics, Motoupo Hocha sometimes leapt from coat rack to beam, from beam to shed and from shed to the tower. Out of bovine traces, Kiao Fan Potii was always spitting up his food and then swallowing it back again. While having destroyed their impurities, saints such as these still have the traces of passion. Thus when ordinary fire has burned the fuel, there remain the ashes and charcoal, for the strength of the fire is so weak that it cannot consume them. 4. The traces of passion are destroyed in the Buddha. At the end of the Kalpa, the cosmic fire consumes the Trisahasra Lokadhatu, of which nothing remains, for the strength of this fire is very great. The fire of the Buddha's omniscience is also very great, it consumes the passions without leaving any trace. Thus, when a Brahmin addressed 500 harmful words to the Buddha in the